Hello friends, in continuation with our concepts for fast track batch, CA Inter GST fast track batch, I have completed majorly the portion including the RTPs and MTP discussion, which was very important, and remaining the portion which is actually not having any amendments, not much amendments. So that areas actually I thought of asking the students to refer the old videos, but so as I promised that I will be doing it, so I am just recording it and I am sharing this with you so that you can listen to this in a crisp and short duration. So these concepts, and these are like age old and there are no much amendments in this, but you can definitely expect some questions based on this. So in that we are looking into concept block number 2, page number 13 in the updated 7th edition revised book. You please see page number 13, supply, composite supply and mixed supply. That's what we are going to discuss. So first, supply is a taxable event under GST. So supply of goods or services or both, so is the taxable event, and supply is defined under section 7. Section 7 subsection 1 deals with inclusions in supply. As per section 7 subsection 1 clause A, any activity for a consideration, so consideration is must, in the course or furtherance of business constitute supply, and this should be seen from whose perspective, whether it is in the course or furtherance of business, from the supplier's perspective. And what is covered here? So any activity involving goods or services. So almost all activities will be coming under 7.1a if it involves consideration. Whereas 7.1b is import of services for consideration. So that import of service should be for consideration. It may or may not be in the course or furtherance of business. For example, a person who subscribes for Amazon Prime or Netflix is importing the services for a consideration, not in the course or furtherance of business, but even then it will become supply under 7.1b. And this, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, should be seen from whose perspective? Recipient perspective. And what is covered here? Only services are covered. Why import of goods are not covered? Because import of goods is subject to customs duty. Then 7.1c, we have 4 activities. This is asked in May 18 and November 20 exam for 5 marks, okay, and even this supply as it is, meaning of supply is asked in November 18 for 5 marks, okay. So for 7.1c, so these 7.1c activities are given in schedule 1. So whenever you are referring to 7.1c, you should also refer to read with schedule 1 of CGST Act, DRIP, D-R-I-P. D for disposal of business asset. So permanent transfer, temporary transfer, permanent transfer. So there is some business asset and disposal of that business asset on which ITC is availed. That is D. Disposal of business asset on which ITC is availed. Okay. I have given that below. Expansion of the DRIP. So therefore I purchase some business asset. Upon purchase of that business asset, GST paid has been taken as credit and that business asset has been disposed of. In this case, so it is treated as supply and I need to pay GST. GST payable in terms of section 18 subsection 6. What is that? Disposal of capital goods on which ITC availed. Suppose if it is other than capital goods, normal value. So section 15. Okay. So but here there is no consideration. The value needs to be determined as per rules. And we don't have the rules applicable for CA intermediate exams, okay. That is this D. And R for related party transactions, including transaction between distinct persons. So there are few related parties, and between related parties, if there is any transaction or distinct persons. So distinct persons is one registration to another registration of the same person. Under a single permanent account number, if we have more than one registration, so each registration to the other registration is known as distinct person. So transaction between distinct persons, and these two will be coming. And what is the meaning of related parties? We have the definition, we will see that. That is R. I for import of services from a related person or another establishment located outside India. Already we have an import of service under 7.1b, but that import of service is from any person. Whereas this import of service is from a related person or another establishment located outside India. Okay, another establishment located outside India or from a related person. And that 71B is for consideration, but 71C is without consideration. And 71B is whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, but 71C should be in the course or furtherance of business. Let's take a situation. A subsidiary company imported services from the holding company without consideration, and definitely it will be in the course or furtherance of business. It becomes supply under 71C. Suppose if a person import services from his son. So son is always treated as related. Okay. So import services from his son, not for the business purpose but for the personal purpose. Even though it is import of service from a related person, but it is not in the course or furtherance of business, therefore it is not a supply. Okay. So for 71B, it may or may not be in the course or furtherance of business, but for 71C, it should be in the course or furtherance of business. And then P for principal agent transactions. Here agent should be undertaking to make supply on behalf of principal. So then between principal and agent it will become supply, but only with respect to goods, not with respect to services. So between principal and the agent only with respect to goods, not with respect to services. Is it clear or not? And in all these four cases, DRIP, so consideration is not required. And what about in the course or furtherance of business? For disposal of business asset, see that disposal may or may not be in the course or furtherance of business. For example, an asset, business asset given to an employee in the course or furtherance of business. Business asset donated to an orphanage, not in the course or furtherance of business. So it may or may not be in the course or furtherance of business. Whereas the other three, that is RIP, should be in the course or furtherance of business. And from whose perspective? Remember, always import of service is from the recipient perspective. And in all other cases, it will be supplier perspective. Okay. And what is covered? In case of disposal of business asset, goods. Business asset is goods. And related party transactions, including transaction between distinct persons, both goods and services. Import of service from a related person, only services. And last, principal agent transaction, only goods. Okay. So that is with respect to this. And what is the meaning of related persons? That is given in explanation to section 15. What does it say? Two persons are deemed to be related if such persons are officers or directors of one another's business, which means that, so supplier and recipient you take. Supplier owns a business in which recipient is appointed as officer, and in recipient's business, supplier is appointed as officer. Officer here refers to the top management, director, and assistant general manager, like that. That grade. Okay. So such persons are officers or directors of one another's business. For example, Mr. X is appointed as officers of Y's business, and Y is appointed as officer of X business. Now X and Y are related. Okay. Then such persons are legally recognized partners of a firm. So there is a partnership firm. In that partnership firm, they are legally recognized partners. Okay. So then also they are related. So provided that firm is registered, then only they will be legally recognized partners. When partners are legally recognized, only when that partnership firm is registered, the partnership deed is registered, so they are legally recognized partners. Such persons are employer and employee. Employer and employee are also related. Okay. And employer and employee, we have one exclusion also in 7 subsection 2. What is that? Services provided by employee to employer in the course of employment is excluded from supply. Okay. So therefore that exclusion is there, but otherwise they both are treated as related parties, and transaction between them will be treated as related party transaction. Why are we discussing this definition? Because if there is any transaction between related parties, it constitutes supply under 71C. Okay. Even though without consideration. So first 3 points we completed. Such persons or officers or directors in one another's business, they are legally recognized partners of a firm, and they are employer and employee. Then next point, 4th point, one person any person directly or indirectly owns, holds or controls 25% or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares of both of them. That is, there are two companies. In those two companies, okay, there is a common shareholder who is holding 25% or more. Now these two companies will become related. Okay, there are two companies. In those two companies there is a common shareholder. So that common shareholder holding investment 25% or more in two companies makes those two companies related. Understood? Then point number 5. One of them directly or indirectly controls the another. What does it mean? So control does not is not defined. So control means investment more than 50%. So what is the previous point? Fourth point, there are two companies in which there is a common shareholder holding 25% or more makes those two companies related. That is a logic. Whereas fifth point is one company investing in the other company more than 50%. So control is not defined. So we are taking investment or composition of board of directors. If two companies are having majority common board of directors, say company X is having 3 directors ABC, company Y is having 3 directors ABD. Now A and B are common and majority. Therefore these two companies are treated as related because one controls the another. Then point number 6, they are under the common control. What does it mean? Common control means, that is, say X Limited is controlled by A Limited and Y Limited is also controlled by A Limited. X is not controlling Y, Y is not controlling X. But they both are being controlled by a common person, A Limited. So therefore they are treated as related. How is it different? This sixth point different from fourth point. In fourth point, one shareholder holding just 25%. But here control does not mean only investment. Control can be in the form of controlling the operations also. If A Limited controls the operations of X Limited and A Limited controls the operations of Y Limited, A Limited need not invest in X Limited and Y Limited, but just controlling the operations makes X Limited and Y Limited related. That is the point. Then they are members of the same family. They are members of the same family. And point number 7. So we complete up to 6. So first 3, next 3 and then next 3. Total 9 relationships. So now last 3 we are discussing, that is, two shareholders together control the company. For example, there is a company which is having two shareholders X and Y. So now X and Y together controls the company. Then these two shareholders are treated as related. Then sir, all shareholders together will be treated as related? No. At any given point of time, the relationship will be established between two parties. So therefore X and Y you take. So these two shareholders together control the company. Therefore these two have the common interest, that is a company. So therefore these two people are treated as related. And then next one, they are members of the same family. So family is defined. So spouse and children, whether or not dependent. So spouse and children will always be considered as family, whereas parents, grandparents and brothers and sisters will be treated as family if they are wholly and mainly dependent. And remember, in-laws will never come under family. Okay, in-laws will never come under family for the purpose of this family definition. In-laws are not treated as related. Son-in-law, brother-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, all these people will not be coming. And grandchildren is not given, only children are given. Okay. Then, 9th point, sole selling agent or sole distributor will always be deemed to be related. So there is only one agent through whom all the supplies are made, then that agent will be deemed to be related. This is the meaning of related. Distinct person, already we know, one registration to the other registration is known as distinct person. Then next, when an agent is acting on behalf of principal, suppose if there is a transaction wherein agent gives the sale transaction, wherein agent gives the invoice in agent's name, agent GSTIN, then principal and agent transaction will be treated as supply. I am an agent, there is one principal, you are my buyer, I am raising the invoice in my name. So then between principal and me, it will be treated as a related party transaction because I am an agent acting on behalf of principal. Same way in a purchase transaction, you are seller, I am an agent, I have a principal. You are raising invoice in my name, means I am acting on behalf of principal. So when I am sending the goods to the principal, that will become principal agent transaction treated as supply under 7(1)(c). Okay. So that is this. As per CBIC circular, an agent should represent principal in all respects, raise invoice in their name or accept invoice in their name, that is agent's name. Then agent is acting on behalf of principal, but this principal agent transaction is only in case of goods. And one more point also you need to know in this context, that every agent acting on behalf of principal is compulsorily required to get registered. Every agent acting on behalf of principal is compulsorily required to get registered. Okay. So this is about section 7 subsection 1, inclusions in supply. So there is one question based on this, one illustration based on this. Have a look into this. Examine whether the activity of import of service in the following independent cases would amount to supply under section 7 of CGST Act. Ms. Srinidhi Kaushik received Vastu Consultancy services for her residence located at Bandra, Mumbai from Mr. Rachel of Sydney, Australia. The amount paid for the said service is 5,000 Australian dollars. So it is what? Import of services, correct? Import of services from a related person or not. So from whom it is received. So we don't have to see all these things. So for $5,000, when it is 5,000 Australian dollars, import of service is for a consideration. So it may or may not be in the course or furtherance of business. It will become supply under section 7(1)(b). Simple. Okay. Then Ms. Srinidhi Kaushik received Vastu Consultancy services for her residence located at Bandra, Mumbai from her son, Mr. Varun, residing in Sydney, Australia. Further, Ms. Srinidhi did not pay any consideration, no consideration. So 7(1)(b) will not come, 7(1)(c). Import of service from a related person. Son is always related, family. And is it in the course or furtherance of business? No, for her residence, not in the course or furtherance of business. Therefore, it is not a supply. It is not in the course or furtherance of business due to that reason. Ms. Srinidhi Kaushik received Vastu Consultancy services for her business premises located Bandra, Mumbai from her son, Mr. Varun, residing in Sydney. Further, Ms. Srinidhi did not pay any consideration, so no consideration, 7(1)(b) will not come, 7(1)(c). Import of service from a related person. Is it in the course or furtherance of business? Yes, for her business premises. So it will become supply under section 7(1)(c). Okay. So that's what we need to write as the answer for this. Okay. Like this also a question can be asked. Then meaning of recipient is asked in November 18 for 5 marks. What is the meaning of recipient? See, if the transaction is for a consideration, the one who is liable to pay the consideration is the recipient. I entered into contract with a holding company to provide services to the subsidiary company. As per the contract, the holding company is liable to pay consideration. So for me, who is the recipient? Holding company. The one who is liable to pay consideration is the recipient. Suppose if the recipient, if there is no consideration and it is goods, the one to whom the goods are handed over will be taken as recipient. And if it is services without consideration, the one to whom we rendered the services will be treated as recipient. Okay. So that is the meaning. So this you need to write it like a paragraph wise, you will get 5 marks. So the last question, question number 4 will be a theoretical question. So there it can be tested. So if consideration is payable, person who is liable to pay consideration, consideration not payable, and if it is goods, person who receives such goods and includes agent of such person, and consideration not payable services, person who receives services and includes agent of such person. And 7 subsection 3 is just a reclassification, classification of supply into goods or services under 7(1)(a). And once an activity becomes supply and it is classified into supply of goods or services, so central government on the recommendations of GST Council is empowered to reclassify. So a transaction is supply of goods means they can reclassify it as supply of services. If a transaction is supply of service, they can reclassify it into supply of goods, like that. Okay. Then look into page number 17, exclusions from supply. These exclusions from supply is given under 7 subsection 2, read with schedule 3. These are the activities which are excluded from supply. So you can remember this with a keyword spelled slow. S for sovereign functions. Sovereign functions of the government. Okay, sovereign functions of the government. So that is government function. What are activities of government? All activities of government other than 4 are excluded from supply. All activities of government other than 4 are excluded from supply. What are the activities of government excluded from supply? All activities other than 4. Okay. So following 4 activities are covered under supply. Following activities are covered under supply. Following activities of government. Following activities of government covered under supply. Covered under supply. Following activities of government covered under supply. What are the activities of government covered under supply? Number 1, Department of Post. Department of Post. Number 2, Port or Airport. Port or Airport. Number 3, that is, services to business entities and transportation. Transportation of goods or passengers. Transportation of goods or passengers. And then number 4, then business entities, services to business entities. Services to business entities. So these are the 4 activities which are covered under supply. So government activities. Apart from these activities, all other activities are excluded from supply. Okay. So government activities. Then P for post. Post, what are they? That is, we have government posts like MPs, MLAs, etc. Then constitutional post. So President of India, Governor, Supreme Court Chief Justice. So they will be coming under constitutional post. Nominated post. There are some bodies under government, and these bodies will be headed by a person, chairman or director, etc. That is known as nominated post, like CBI director, RBI governor, etc. So that is known as nominated post. So that is also excluded from supply. Then A for actionable claims other than lottery betting gambling. So only lottery betting gambling are covered under supply, and all other actionable claims are excluded from supply. What are actionable claims? Actionable claims means you have a right to receive a benefit or recover a debt, and it is legally enforceable, and you can transfer it from one person to another person, and whomsoever holds it will be receiving the benefit or recovering the debt. For example, bill of exchange you take. When you have a bill of exchange, you have right to recover a debt. Can you transfer it? Yes. And whether it is legally enforceable? Yes. And whomsoever holds it is entitled to receive the benefit. So that is an example of an actionable claim. Okay. But all actionable claims are excluded from supply. Only 3 are covered under supply. What are they? Lottery, betting and gambling. Okay. Then legal fees. Legal fees refers to fee collected by the court or tribunal. So court or tribunal, for the purpose of taking up a case, will be collecting some fee. That fee is excluded from supply. Then another L, land sale. So sale of land is being immovable property, it is excluded from supply. Not only that, sale of building where entire consideration is received after obtaining completion certificate or first occupation, whichever is earlier. What does it mean? It means that there is a completion certificate which is obtained, and after obtaining completion certificate, if I book the flat and receive entire consideration, it is excluded from supply. What if part of the consideration is received before completion certificate and remaining after completion certificate? It is covered under supply, it is not excluded from supply. Wherever completion certificate comes, you replace it with first occupation if first occupation is earlier than the completion certificate. So before obtaining completion certificate for the project, if one of the flat is already occupied, so that will be taken as the deemed completion certificate, and before that whatever flats are booked for which we took the advances, so those flats are only covered under supply. Okay. Then E for employee to employer in the course of employment. So there is an employee who is rendering services to the employer in the course of employment, that is also excluded from supply. Then that part already we discussed while discussing, employer and employee treated as related parties. Then death related, that is funeral, burial, crematorium, mortuary, including transportation of the deceased. So all post-death activities are excluded from supply. This is PALD. Then slow, S for sale on high seas basis. So before the goods are being imported, so sale before import, okay. Before the goods are being imported, the original importer will have a document of title known as airway bill or bill of lading. So this airway bill or bill of lading, say for example I am the original importer and the goods are in transit, and before the goods actually reach India, what I am doing is I am transferring the bill of lading or airway bill to another buyer who will take the delivery of the goods by paying customs duty. Now I will receive some money by way of transfer of document to title, right? So that is excluded from supply. Reason, anyhow that person will pay customs duty along with IGST, that's why. Same way, warehoused goods. Last point, SLOW. So warehoused goods sold. So warehoused goods sold, when the warehoused goods are being sold, there also the same point. What is this warehoused goods? So imported goods which are deposited in the warehouse. Imported goods which are deposited in the warehouse. So these deposited goods in the warehouse are without payment of customs duty. When we sell those deposited goods in the warehouse, then also we are not required to pay any GST, because the person to whom we sold that warehouse goods, that person has to pay customs duty along with IGST. So we are relieved. That is this. So point number S and W are connected. S is before import, W is after import, but the goods are in the warehouse. Which warehouse? Customs warehouse. Okay. Then next L for liquor license. Liquor license sold by the state government. Only liquor license granted by the state government is excluded from supply. Suppose if I got the liquor license, I am one person, I got the liquor license from state government. Now I sell the liquor license to some other person, now I get consideration. Is that excluded from supply? No, that is not excluded from supply. Only liquor license granted by the state government to me, for which I pay a license fee, so that is excluded from supply in the hands of the state government. They are not required to pay any GST. And then O for outside the country movement of goods. So supplier located in India, recipient is located in India, but supplier is having a branch outside India, and recipient is having a branch outside India. From supplier's branch outside India to recipient branch outside India, if there is any movement of goods, then also it will be excluded from supply. Okay. So the movement of goods is completely outside India. Then what happens in India is only the financial impact of the transaction. Okay. That is this. So these are all excluded from supply. Then one more point also you remember, gift. Gifts given by employer to employee. Suppose if the value of the gift does not exceed 50,000 rupees, then it is excluded from supply. If the value of the gift exceeds 50,000, entirely it will be treated as supply. Okay. Then some important definitions in this regard. So meaning of goods. Goods are defined under section 2 clause 52. So goods includes any kind of movable property. Goods means any kind of movable property. It includes actionable claims. Actionable claims are treated as goods, but only 3 are covered under supply. What are they? Lottery, betting and gambling. Then goods also includes growing crops or things attached to a farming part of land agreed to be severed under a contract of supply. At the time when we enter into contract, it is attached to earth, but at the time of delivery, we agree to cut it and deliver. So that is also coming under goods. And goods excludes money and securities. Money and securities are not treated as goods. Okay. Same way, service definition given under section 2 clause 1 or 2, there also. So service definition also excludes money and securities. So money and securities are neither goods nor services. Then services means anything other than goods. So anything other than goods will come under services. And services includes transaction in money for a separate consideration. As such, transaction in money is not treated as service or goods, but transaction in money for a separate consideration. For example, I give you a 2000 rupee note and take 1900 rupee notes, you are getting 100 rupees as a consideration, so that will be treated as service. And foreign exchange transaction, $1 equals to say 78 rupees, and you give me 78 rupees minus a small markup fee you are deducting. That markup fee is the service, that separate consideration is the service. Okay, transaction in money for a separate consideration. Then facilitating or arranging transaction in securities. What is the meaning of facilitating or arranging transaction in securities? Which means that, so there is a transaction in security and I am not doing the transaction in security, I am acting as an intermediary in facilitating or arranging transaction in security. By acting as an intermediary, I get some commission or brokerage, etc. So that will be coming under service. Okay. So sale of securities is excluded, but facilitating or arranging transaction in securities means I am acting as a middleman for the transaction in securities, say stockbroker or depository, etc. So some commission or charges or brokerage is received, that is covered under service definition. Okay. Then what is the meaning of money? So money means either Indian rupees or foreign currency, either Indian currency or foreign currency, and it includes any instrument recognized by RBI. So all these wallets, check, etc. also will be coming under money. And money definition excludes currency held for numismatic value, means it is not in Indian legal tender today. It was currency in the past, which is not in Indian legal tender today. Like old coins, old currency notes will be known as currency held for numismatic value. What about bitcoins? Will bitcoins come under money? No. Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies will not come under money because they are not recognized by RBI. So then, sir, when there is a transaction in cryptocurrency bitcoins, whether it is chargeable to GST, yes, it will be chargeable to GST. Okay. Then meaning of consideration. Consideration as per section 2 clause 31. Consideration includes and consideration excludes. So goods definition 2 clause 52. Services 2 clause 102. Consideration is given under 2 clause 31. So consideration includes and consideration excludes. Consideration includes what? Let it be monetary consideration or non-monetary consideration. Monetary consideration means, payment received or receivable. Payment received or receivable will be coming under monetary consideration, whereas non-monetary consideration can be in the form of goods or services. That is, I am making a supply. As a consideration, I can receive goods or services. Okay. And consideration excludes subsidy from central government or state government. That is excluded from the meaning of consideration. And consideration excludes, so deposit, refundable deposits. So I collect some security deposit which is refundable in nature, that will not be treated as consideration. Okay. Then consideration can be received from recipient or any other person. What we need to see is whether presence of consideration is there or not. So whether there is a presence of consideration or not, we need to check, but not receipt of consideration. So we may receive consideration from any person. For example, a two-wheeler dealer provides after-sale service, free after-sale service to a buyer, for which money is received from the manufacturer. But the consideration is not received from the recipient, but there is consideration in the transaction, and that will become supply under 7(1)(a), supply for a consideration. Okay. Then consideration should be in response to, in respect of, or for inducement of supply of goods or services. I am taking classes and this much is the fees, that is in respect of. I am taking classes and how much ever you wish to pay, you pay in response to. I am taking classes and you are not going to pay at present. So whatever you pay in response to this, that is a consideration. I am not taking classes, you are giving me money and asking me to take the class, that money is also consideration. Okay, that is inducement of. Then any activity without consideration or consideration without activity is not a supply. That is, I am doing some activity, I am not getting any consideration. For example, this GST batch, I am taking a free GST batch. For which am I getting any consideration? No. So therefore that will be coming under, yes, I get the consideration which is your love and affection, but that love and affection cannot be treated as non-monetary consideration, correct? So it cannot be ascertained, it is not tangible, correct? So therefore that will not be taken. So I am not getting any consideration, so not a supply. Suppose if I get some consideration without any activity, some unconditional donation, some donations, I get the donation and I don't have any obligation to do anything, then also it is not a supply. Okay? Then, so now related to this, so donations are divided into two. This part already I discussed while doing valuation, but I am repeating it again. Donations are divided into two: unconditional donation and conditional donations. Unconditional means what? I get the donation, I don't have any obligation to do anything in return to you. So I don't have obligation to supply goods or services to you. Then it will be unconditional donation. So it is not a supply, not a consideration, not a supply. Whereas if it is a conditional donation, so means I have an obligation to do something to you against that donation, then it will be treated as consideration for the supply and it will come under 7.1a. Okay. So corpus donations. Corpus donations means for a particular purpose I am collecting the donations from you. What about that? For a particular purpose I am collecting the donations from you. So will it come under conditional donation or unconditional donation? Unconditional only. Because corpus donation does not mean conditional. Sir, but you have an obligation. I have an obligation to spend it for that purpose, but I don't have an obligation to do something to you because you gave me the donation. Got it? So that's why it is unconditional donation only. Okay. So that is this. And suppose if a donor name is displayed against the donation, but the donor did not insist. The donor did not insist, but the person who received the donation voluntarily displayed the name of the donor. Now in this case, what name is displayed? Whether business name is displayed, that is, whether the name, display of name gives a business advantage to the recipient, the donor, yes, then it is deemed as conditional donation. Actually it is unconditional. Why? Because I don't have any obligation to put your name, voluntarily I am putting. But what name I should put? Your individual name, or the name should not give any business advantage to you. But if I display a name that gives a business advantage to you, you are one Mr. X, I am putting Mr. X, no problem. You own a jewelry shop, if I put the jewelry shop name, then you get a business advantage. So it will become supply under 7.1a. Got it? That is this. And so there is one question related to this, have a look into this. The temple of ancestral deity of Mr. Aman Goyal and his family is located at Beri, Haryana. The temple is run by a charitable organization registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act 1961. The family has got unshakable faith in their ancestral deity. Mr. Aman is a big entrepreneur having flourishing business of tiles in Gurugram. Upon the birth of their first child, he donated 10 lakhs to the said temple for construction of a sitting hall in the temple. On the main door of the sitting hall, the name plate was placed stating donated by Mr. Aman Goyal on birth of his first child. So yes, so that donation results in display of name, but it is not a compulsion. So out of gratitude it is displayed, but that display of name do not result in any business advantage. Hence GST is not leviable in this case. Okay. Then next, number 3, meaning of business. Business is defined under section 2 clause 17. So we have the general meaning of business and there are some specific activities. So first we will see the general meaning of the business. There are 7 activities: trade, commerce, manufacture. Trade is sale of goods. Commerce is service sector, insurance, banking, transportation, that is commerce. Manufacture, conversion of raw material into finished product. Okay. Next, profession, occasion, adventure. All these 3 are related to skill. So skill obtained by way of qualification like doctor, chartered accountant, engineer will be called as profession. And so vocation is skill obtained by way of experience. So that is, you have to practice to get that skill. So magic, magician, or dance, singing, that will be called as vocation. Adventure is using the skill as a passion, not for your living, that is adventure. And last, wager, that is betting transaction. These activities, whether it's incidental or ancillary, is also covered. It's incidental or ancillary is also covered, and it may be irrespective of the volume, frequency, or continuity. So whatever it may be one transaction or maybe 100 transactions. And whether or not for a pecuniary benefit, means profit motive is present or not present. And apart from this, there are some specific activities. These specific activities are always treated as supply. What are those specific activities? Entry tickets. So giving admission, like access to the premises against collection of some amount, is known as entry tickets. So that is covered under business. Any premises. Then holding an office accepted by a person in the course or furtherance of his trade, profession, or vocation. For example, there is a chartered accountant who contested in the elections and become a central council member on the president of ICI. For becoming the president of ICI, some money will be received. So that will be coming under business. Holding an office accepted by the person in the course or furtherance of his trade, profession, or vocation. Then supply of goods or services in connection with commencement or closure of business. That is, I am commencing the business, and in connection with commencement I made some goods. For example, I purchased some 10 ACs. 4 ACs I used in business, remaining 6 ACs I am selling. So even though sale of ACs is not my business, but it will come under supply of goods in connection with commencement of business. Same way, at the time of closure of business, the remaining assets I will be disposing it of. That disposal of business asset also will be coming under in connection with disposal of asset, in connection with closure of business. So that will also be coming under business. Then provision of facilities or benefits to its members by a club, society, or association. There is a club or association or a society. That club, association, or society providing the facilities or benefits to its members, whatever money that is received is also treated as business. So like a resident welfare association, apartment owners association providing facilities to their members and collecting maintenance charges, that one. And any activity of a race club including betting transactions. So betting or gambling transactions will be coming under business, no doubt. But even if it is conducted in a race club, that is also coming under business. Okay. All activities of race club. This is the meaning of business. So this is useful for writing. Suppose if they give a question whether the following activities constitute supply or not, there it will be useful to write yes, it becomes supply and the said activity falls under business. It is not supply, the said activity do not fall under business. There it will be useful. Okay. Then next, meaning of person. Person is simple. Whatever the meaning of person that we have under Income Tax Act, the same meaning of person extra central government and state government. So meaning of person under income tax is what? Individual, HUF, AJP, BOI, then cooperative society, company, body corporate, and every artificial juridical person, local authority, except the extra what we have is central government, state government, it will become person under GST. Then meaning of various supplies. First we have zero rated supply. What is zero rated supply? Zero rated supply does not mean the rate of GST is zero. Zero rated supply means whenever you are exporting some goods or services, or whenever you are supplying some goods or services to a SEZ, it is known as zero rated because you have two options there. That is with payment of GST, without payment of GST, and you will get refund. But that provisions are not applicable for your exam. So understand the tax incidence is zero in that case. That's why it is known as zero rated supply. Whereas exempted supply means, so notified as exempted. Government from time to time will notify certain services or goods as exempted. That is notified as exempted. Then nil rated. The rate of GST is nil or non-taxable. What are non-taxable supplies? alcoholic liquor for human consumption and petroleum products. These two are non-taxable supplies. So that will be coming under, meaning of exempted supplies. See there. So which attract nil rate or wholly exempt from tax and includes non-taxable. And taxable supply is balancing figure. A supply other than exempted supply will come under taxable supply. So taxable supply do not include exempted supply because exempted supply includes non-taxable supply. That's why. Okay. And when we take aggregate turnover, we need to take all the supplies into aggregate turnover. So see this, supply of goods or services chargeable to GST means GST payable is known as taxable supplies. Is known as taxable supplies. Okay, taxable supplies. Whereas not chargeable to GST means GST not payable, but it is leviable to GST, nil rated or notified for non-payment, or not leviable to GST, non-taxable, will come under exempted supply. So exempted supply is not part of taxable supply. For that only I just gave you this chart. Then this point already we discussed, GST on sale of flats. So what will happen? That is, if entire consideration is received before completion certificate, it is excluded from supply. Okay. And what is the nature of excluded from supply or covered under supply? Covered under supply, not excluded from supply. Covered under supply, nature of transaction, works contract service. And when it will be excluded from supply? When entire consideration is received after obtaining completion certificate, it is excluded from supply and it will be treated as sale of immovable property. If part of the consideration is before completion certificate and remaining part is after completion certificate, then is it excluded from supply? No, it is not excluded from supply, it is covered under supply and it will be treated as works contract service. Okay. Entirely, entire consideration, not that part of the consideration received before supply is covered under, that part of consideration received before completion certificate is covered under supply. Entire consideration is covered under supply. Okay. Then first occupation, this is what I was referring to. We commence the construction on 25/3 and first occupation is on 15/5/2020 and completion certificate is on 28/9/2021. Now before first occupation some 10 flats were booked, and after first occupation and before completion certificate 25 flats, and thereafter 5 flats got booked. Now, so what will be taken as the deemed date of completion is whichever is earlier, first occupation or completion certificate, whichever is earlier. So 15/5 will be taken as the deemed date of completion. So before that date, how many flats booked? 10 flats booked on the GST payable, but all remaining flats 25 and 5 GST not payable, it is excluded from supply. Okay. Then meaning of aggregate turnover, I told you already. So this is asked as a theory question, even it can be asked as a practical question also in exam. Okay. So what is the meaning of aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies, exempted supply, non-taxable supplies, everything, exports, interstate supplies. And remember, aggregate turnover is always computed on a all India basis. And this aggregate turnover excludes inward supplies on which GST payable under RCM. So if there is any inward supply on which GST is payable under RCM, that is excluded from the aggregate turnover. Even CGST, SGST, UTGST and IGST is also excluded. Okay. So this is the exclusions. Then once an activity becomes supply, we know that we need to classify it into goods or services. So that classification is what we are trying to understand, and it is asked in November 18 exam for 5 marks. So once an activity becomes supply, it should be classified into supply of goods or services. So first, let's take movable property. When movable property will become supply of goods? If there is any transfer of title, it will become goods. If there is any transfer of right to use, it will become supply of service. For example, I have a car and I am giving the title of the car to you. Now it is transfer of title, supply of goods. That title may be given at present or the title may be given at a future date. Okay. The title may be given at present or the title may be given at a future date. It will become supply of goods. then I'm not giving you the title, I'm just renting the car to you or leasing the car to you, means I'm giving you the right to use the car, then it will be supply of service. Then in relation to immovable property, it will never come under supply of goods because goods excludes immovable property. What about service? Yes, transfer of right to use immovable property or construction of immovable property will come under service. So transfer of right to use immovable property means what? Renting of immovable property or leasing of immovable property, like that. Okay. And then intellectual property rights, IPRs. So IPR refers to trademark, patent, copyright, etc. So intellectual property rights, we need to check whether there is permanent transfer or temporary transfer. If there is a permanent transfer of IPR, it is supply of goods. Okay, that is sale of patent to a company, supply of goods. Temporary transfer of IPR, a music director composes a music and transfers it to the producer, a temporary transfer of IPR. Okay, that will be supply of service. Then point number 4, carrying out process on the goods belonging to other person. And as per the contract, supplier should purchase those goods but supplied by the recipient. Okay, then it will be treated as supply of goods only, I'll tell you. So you approached me to make a furniture and give it to you. And as per the contract, I should purchase the material, but you gave me the material, and using that material I made the furniture and gave it to you. So just because you gave me some material, it does not become job work, it will be supply of goods. Suppose as per the contract you need to give me the material, and on that material if I need to make the process, then it will be coming under supply of service, that is job work. If the recipient is registered, it is called as job work. If the recipient is unregistered, it is not called as job work, it is some other services. See, first of all, as per the contract, you need to give me material, I need to process and give, it is supply of service. Now, what it is? Suppose if the recipient is registered, the nature of the transaction is job work. If the recipient is unregistered, it is some other services. So what? The rate of GST differs. If it is job work, we have a different rate of GST. If it is some other services, we have a different rate of GST. That is general rate 18% is there. That's why. Now, we are discussing supply of goods along with supply of services. So in a transaction, there will be both goods and services. In a transaction, there is both goods and services. How to deal with that? In that case, first, there are 3 notified activities which are always treated as supply of service. There are 3 notified activities which are always treated as supply of service. What are they? Works contract service and software and supply of food. Works contract service. Works contract is contract involving supply of goods as well as supply of services. I have given that in the next page. A contract involving transfer of property in goods as well as supply of service in relation to immovable property against a single consideration. So, in relation to immovable property, for example, you approached me to do an interior decoration, that is in relation to immovable property. I am supplying both goods as well as services against a single consideration, that is known as a works contract service. Okay. So, in case of works contract service, it is excluded from supply. Okay. When is it excluded from supply? It is in relation to immovable property. No, it is not sale of immovable property. It is not sale of immovable property. Only when entire consideration is received after completion certificate, it is excluded from supplying. But otherwise, it will be covered under supply and it will be treated as supply of service. Same way, software will always be treated as supply of service. And supply of food, even though that food involves both goods element and service element, but it will be treated as supply of service. Okay. Then, apart from these 3 activities, remaining transactions, we need to classify whether it is supply of goods or services, because in the transaction they involve both goods and services. So, we need to classify it based on composite supply and mixed supply. Suppose if it is a composite supply. If the principal supply is goods, entire transaction is goods. For example, AC plus installation. AC is supply of goods, installation is supply of service. And it is a composite supply. Principal supply is what? AC. So, entire transaction is treated as supply of goods. Suppose if the principal supply is service, then entire transaction is treated as service. For example, coaching and books. CA coaching plus books. So, is it composite supply? Yes. And in that case, what is the principal supply? Coaching. So entirely it will be treated as supply of service. Okay. Then mixed supply. Suppose if it is a mixed supply, then highest rate. If the highest rate supply is goods, then entire transaction is goods. If the highest rate supply is service, entire transaction is service. For example, TV plus optional warranty. Sale of television plus optional warranty, it will be coming under mixed supply, not naturally bundled. So warranty is optional, that's why. So only TV can be sold. So TV plus optional warranty will be coming under mixed supply. So highest rate say is for TV, then entire transaction will be treated as supply of goods. Another example, video lectures plus pen drive, mixed supply, because video lectures can be sold separately without pen drive, Google Drive. Okay, so then in that case it will be coming under mixed supply. Highest rate is for video lectures, so pen drive is chargeable at a lesser rate, so therefore entire transaction will be treated as supply of service. Understood? So because in case of composite supply and mixed supply, the classification will be based on principal supply and highest rate. For rate of GST, the same is applied even for classification between supply of goods and supply of services. Apart from this, any other activity if it is there, it will always be treated as supply of service. Doing an act, not doing an act, tolerating an act. Okay, it will not come under supply of goods. So actually this sheet, this table, I did not discuss in the previous videos, that is which were recorded previously. So I have just added this because considering its importance I have just given. So previously I gave, but I just discussed it in a quick format, but this is in detail I have given. Okay, then distinct persons already we discussed. In this regard we need to know one point. Suppose if I have multiple businesses in different states, should I get registration in each state? Yes, I need to obtain registration in each state. Suppose if I have multiple businesses in the same state but different place of business, I have an option whether to go for separate registration or I can continue with a single registration by showing the other place as my additional place of business. Suppose if I have multiple businesses in the same state, same place, no need to get a separate registration. So one registration of a person to another registration is known as distinct person. So because of that reason, what will happen? Whenever there is a stock transfer or branch transfer, if it is interstate, it will become supply under 71C, because interstate stock transfer or branch transfer, when you have branches in different state, each state you will get a separate registration, so it will become transaction between distinct persons, so supply under 71C. Suppose if it is intrastate stock transfer or branch transfer, within the state you have an option to go for separate registration. Suppose if it is a separate registration, then it will become supply under 71C. Suppose you got a single registration, then between branches within the state, no separate registration, it is not a supply. Okay. Then this part already we discussed what is the meaning of an actionable claim. So actionable claims are covered under goods, but there are some actionable claims which are covered under money definition, which is neither goods that is not services. Bill of exchange, promissory note and bearer check. These three are covered under money definition, so it is neither goods nor services. And other actionable claims are treated as goods, but in that also only three are covered under supply. What are they? Lottery, betting and gambling are covered under supply, and all other actionable claims are excluded from supply. Okay, not a supply. So with this we completed supply. Now we have composite supply versus mixed supply. So first listen, composite supply versus mixed supply will come into picture when there are two or more supplies in a single transaction. First we will try to understand the flow chart what we need to apply. So see the next page. Two or more supplies in a single transaction. No, leave it. Section 8 discussion will not come. Two or more supplies in a single transaction, and all the supplies are taxable. All the given supplies are taxable and naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Means what? One supply cannot be made without the other, and you can identify the principal supply if these three conditions are satisfied. First, all are taxable, naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, and principal supply can be identified. If these three conditions are satisfied, then it is known as composite supply. And in case of composite supply, we need to take the rate of principal supply. We need to take the rate of principal supply. The price can be separate or single. Okay. Whereas if any one of these three is not satisfied, check whether it is for a single price or separate price. If it is for a single price, it is mixed supply. So in order to make a mixed supply, the price should be single, don't forget. Suppose if it is not satisfying any of these three conditions and separate price is there, then it will be individual supplies taxable accordingly. Okay, individual supplies taxable accordingly. Let's see some illustrations to understand this. Supply of laptop bag, illustration 1. Supply of laptop bag along with laptop. Laptop bag is 28%, laptop is 18%. To a customer for rupees 55,000. What is the GST payable? Laptop and laptop bag both are taxable. Naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Usually, so when they sell laptop, they will also give the laptop bag. And principal supply is identifiable, that is laptop, so it is a composite supply. And we need to take the rate of principal supply, that is 18% will be taken and multiplied on 55,000. So 9,900 is the GST. Understood? Same way, second illustration. Supply of 10,000 kits at rupees 50 each, amounting to 5 lakhs exclusive of GST to Ram Fancy Store. Each kit consists of 1 hair oil, 1 beauty soap and 1 hair comb. See, this hair oil, beauty soap and hair comb all are taxable. All are taxable, but not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, because in the ordinary course of business, this hair oil, hair comb and beauty soap can be sold separately. So it is not a composite supply. Okay. To become mixed supply, check whether there is a single price or separate price. There is a single price. There is a single price, 50 rupees each. So it will become mixed supply and we will take the highest rate. What is the highest rate between these? 18, 28 and 12, 28%. So 28% will be taken. Okay. And multiplied on entire 5 lakhs. 1,40,000. Then illustration 3. Mrs. Kajal has hired out 1,400 chairs and 100 coolers to a function garden Ajmer, Rajasthan for rupees 3,30,000 exclusive of GST, including cost of transporting the chairs and coolers from Mrs. Kajal's godown at Jaipur to function garden. So service of renting of chairs and coolers is 12%, transportation service is 5%. See, so both are taxable. Two supplies, both are taxable. Naturally bundled, yes. Usually when they give it on rent, chairs and coolers, they only do transportation naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. And principal supply is renting, so it will become composite supply. And what is the principal supply? Renting of chairs and coolers. What rate? 12%. On entire 3,30,000, we need to multiply 12%. Okay. Then illustration number 4. A house is given on rent through a single rent deed, one floor of which is to be used as residence and the other for printing press. At a lump sum rent amount, what is the nature of supply? Is it a composite supply or a mixed supply? So first, whether all the supplies involved are taxable? No. No, because when we give it on rent for residential purpose, it is exempted. Whereas when we give it for commercial purpose, it is taxable. So all are not taxable. Okay. Is it for a single price? Yes. So therefore it will become mixed supply. And we take the highest rate. So highest rate is what? Commercial rent taxable at 18%. So that same rate 18% will be applied on the entire rent. Then question number 5. Sagar Limited supplying a kit which contains tie 12%, a watch 28%, a wallet 28% and a pen 12% as a combo for rupees 4,500. Tie, watch, wallet and pen are bundled as a kit. The kit is supplied for a single price. Determine the nature of supply and GST payable. Is it naturally bundled or not naturally bundled? All are taxable. Naturally or not naturally bundled? Not naturally bundled, because one can be sold without the other. So not naturally bundled. Is it for a single price or separate price? Single price. Mixed supply, we will take the highest rate. So 28% on 4,500 rupees. Okay. So this is how you need to apply the concept of composite supply and mixed supply. So this flow chart you remember for the purpose of application. Whereas if you get a theory question as to distinguish between composite supply, mixed supply, you can use this table. First, what is the difference? Composite supply, two or more supplies naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, and mixed supply, two or more supplies not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Type of supplies involved, all are taxable, whereas mixed supply either taxable or exempted or non-taxable. Price, under composite supply there can be single price or separate price, don't forget this. But under mixed supply there should be a single price. And whether there is principal supply required in case of composite supply, yes. But principal supply is not required in case of mixed supply. What will be the GST rate? Principal supply rate, their highest rate amongst the given supplies. So these points if you write, that is sufficient if you get a theory question. Okay. So this is about composite supply and mixed supply. Now we are moving on to some important circulars in this regard. That is movement of conveyances. So there is a movement of conveyance between distinct persons. So on that conveyance no need to pay GST, it is not a supply. But on the goods inside that conveyance we need to pay GST, provided that goods are for further supply. Suppose if that conveyance contains some spare parts for consumption in the other place, not for further supply, then also no need to pay GST. Movement of conveyance between distinct persons do not constitute supply. So what is this? First, Ford Limited is having a factory in Tamil Nadu and they are having a factory in Gujarat. They both are treated as distinct persons, correct? Now, there is a truck which is transporting goods and spare parts from Tamil Nadu to Gujarat. And this goods is for further supply, but the spare parts are not for further supply but for consumption in the factory in Gujarat. Value of this lorry is 8 lakhs, no need to pay GST on that. Value of the goods is 25 lakhs, GST payable. Value of the spare parts is 6 lakhs, no need to pay GST on that. On that spare parts, no need to pay GST. Why? So these spare parts are not for further supply but for consumption in the factory, distinct person, that's why. But those goods are for further supply, so GST payable on that goods. By factory in Tamil Nadu, it will become transaction between distinct persons without consideration in the course or furtherance of business. So it is supply and chargeable to GST. So Ford Limited Tamil Nadu will raise invoice on Ford Limited Gujarat, and Ford Limited Gujarat will take the ITC on the same, and they will be taking the ITC and using it for payment of GST on their outward supply. Done. Now from Ford Limited Gujarat to Ford Limited Maharashtra workshop, they send the truck for repairs. So this truck is an empty truck which is sent for repair, so there is no GST on that truck. No need to pay GST on that truck sent because it is an empty truck which is being sent. Now from workshop after repairs, the truck is sent to the Ford Limited factory in Tamil Nadu. Now on truck no need to pay GST, but on the repair service which is provided by Maharashtra registration to Tamil Nadu registration, they need to raise invoice and pay GST because that will become transaction between distinct persons. Okay. So that's what I have given. Movement of trains, buses, trucks, tankers, trailers, vessels, containers, aircrafts carrying goods or passengers or for repair shall not constitute supply and not chargeable to GST. However, that is movement for repairs, movement of conveyance for repairs, no GST. But for that repair services, on movement of conveyance for repair, no GST. But for that repair service provided by one distinct person to another distinct person, GST payable. Also, this circular is extended to interstate movement of rigs, tools and spares and all goods on wheels. So any spare parts, tools, etc. which are sent from one distinct person to another distinct person, not for further supply, then also there is no GST. Okay, this is one circular. So in detail I gave. Next, another circular is printing activity. So in a printing job, there are two supplies That is paper, which is goods, and printing, which is service. Paper is goods and printing is service. And CBIC has clarified that it will be classified based on principal supply. If the principal supply is paper, the entire transaction will be goods. If the principal supply is printing, entire transaction is service. So when the paper constitutes principal supply, sale of tissue, sale of letterhead, say tissue papers printed, logo printed, letterhead, logo printed, etc., then paper constitutes principal supply, the printing is just ancillary. So entire transaction trade as supply of goods. In case of books, brochures, flyers, etc., what constitutes principal supply is, printing constitutes principal supply. So books, magazines, brochures and flyers, then it will be treated as supply of service. Okay. Then next, that is this here, activity of printing. Then taxability of the tenancy premium. So tenancy premium means whenever we have a tenancy right, upon transferring the tenancy right, we are a tenant. Upon transferring the tenancy right or renouncing the tenancy right, we get some amount that is known as tenancy premium. That tenancy premium will always be taxable in the hands of the tenant. Whereas that tenancy premium, any amount is shared with the property owner, it will be taxable in the hands of property owner if the rent against that property is taxable. Means if it is a commercial property, it will be taxable, or if it is a residential property given for commercial purpose, it will be taxable. Otherwise, the tenancy premium is not taxable. If the rent is taxable, tenancy premium is taxable. So listen to this. There is a property owner and a tenant A. Property owner and tenant A entered into a lock-in contract for a period of 3 years. So means in that 3 years, property owner cannot ask tenant A to vacate and tenant A cannot give notice for vacating the property. Now, tenant A pays a security deposit and rent, and security deposit is not a consideration and rent will be taxable, provided the rent is like what? So if it is a commercial property, so rent taxable based on rent. Okay, so taxable based on nature of property, that's what I mean to say. Taxable based on nature of property. Taxable based on nature of property. Suppose if it is a residential property given for commercial purpose, it will be taxable. If it is a commercial property, always it will be taxable. That is what it is. Now, this tenant A will be transferring the tenancy right to tenant B, for which tenant B will pay a tenancy premium of 80,000 rupees. This 80,000 rupees is always taxable in the hands of tenant A irrespective of the nature of the property. Whereas, when tenant A share a premium with the property owner, the taxability of tenancy rate depends upon the taxability of the rent. If rent is taxable, this tenancy premium is also taxable. If rent is exempted, tenancy premium is also exempted. But for tenant, always it will be taxable. Don't forget this. So then there will be dual taxation. No, tenant A will pay GST on 80,000 and property owner, when he pays GST on 32,000, he recover from tenant A and tenant A can take ITC on the GST paid. Okay. That is this. There are two supplies. Supply number 1 by tenant A to tenant B. Supply number 2 by property owner to tenant A. Then taxability of interest earned by a del creditor agent. This part already we discussed. I am just repeating it again. First, there is some interest income. Interest on loans, advances or deposits. Interest on loans, advances or deposits is exempted, but interest for delay in receipt of consideration will be included in the value and chargeable to GST accordingly, correct? Interest on loans, advances and deposits is exempted. Interest for delay in receipt of consideration will be included in the value and chargeable to GST accordingly. Now, there is a del creditor agent. Who is a del creditor agent? So, one who collects money from the buyer and then remits to the principal is a normal agent. One who makes a payment to the principal and at a later period collects from the buyer along with interest is known as del creditor agent. So, del creditor agent gets an interest income. whether that interest income will be taxable or exempted. First, we need to see whether del creditor agent is acting on behalf of the principal or not. When a del creditor agent will be acting on behalf of principal, if del creditor agent raises the invoice in his name, for example, I am the del creditor agent, I am raising invoice in my name. Now, for you, you are my buyer. For you, I am the supplier. Therefore, whatever interest that you pay is for delay in receipt of consideration that will be chargeable to GST included in the value. Suppose if I am not raising invoice to you, my principal raises invoice to you. For you, my principal is the supplier. I am just the financier. So whatever interest that you are paying to me is interest on loans advances which is exempted. Understood? That is what we need to apply. Then taxability of bus body building. The taxability of bus body building is determined on the basis of principal supply. Suppose in a bus body building, what constitutes principal supply we need to see. If the principal supply is supply of goods, then entire transaction is supply of goods. If principal supply is supply of service, then entire transaction is supply of service. For example, painting you take. In a bus body building, painting job is done. So painting plus painter. So painting is service, paint is goods. What constitutes principal supply is painting. So entire transaction is treated as supply of service, like that. And then taxability of rethreading of tires. Rethreading of tires is we will take the old tire, do the rethreading and give. Whether the old tire still belongs to the recipient, yes, then rethreading is just a process for supply of service. If we buy the rethreaded tire from the recipient and sell if we buy the old tire from the recipient and sell the rethreaded tire, then it will be supply of goods. Okay. Then taxability of priority sector lending certificate. Priority sector lending certificates are sold by one bank to the other bank. So whenever some banks are having shortfall in achieving the priority sector loan, they will be purchasing this priority sector lending certificate from another bank. It will be treated as supply of goods and GST payable. IGST is payable in this case. Okay, it will be deemed to be interstate supply. IGST payable. That part is not relevant. Just remember it is supply of goods. Then taxability of a hire purchase transaction. This taxability of hire purchase transaction in detail we discussed in value of supply. While discussing value of supply, there I told you hire purchase transaction, how the tax will be payable. Okay, so hire purchase transaction versus hire purchase financing, the nitty-gritties of this already we discussed. It is just the repetition which I have given here. Okay, so these are the various circulars that we have. So with this we completed concept block number 2. So what are the various areas we covered is supply, composite supply, mixed supply and various circulars in this regard. Okay, and related to this you have the practice manual. You can go through that practice manual questions, like all the important questions I have covered. So there are some questions on this concept block number 2, some MCQs and some practical questions. Have a look into this. I am just explaining it once. Shahil, a resident of Delhi, is having a residential property in Vasant Vihar, Delhi, which has been given on rent to a family for 50 lakh per annum. Determine whether Shahil is liable to pay GST on such rent. So GST payable residential property which has been given on rent for 50 lakhs. No, GST is not payable because renting is exempted. Sorry, I am looking into concept block number 3. Sorry. Looking into concept block number 2 here. Sorry. So question number MCQ 1. Goods as per section 252 includes actionable claim. Yes, goods includes actionable claim. Growing crops, but money and securities no. So option 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So C is the answer. Then an exempted supply includes, already we discussed this, supply which attracts nil rate or non-taxable or wholly exempt from tax. So all these three. Which of the following services received in the course or furtherance of business amount to supply? Import of service by a person in India from his son well settled in USA. Yes, it is supply. Yes, it is supply. Import of service by a person in India from his brother when settled in Germany. No, because brother settled in Germany is not a family. Only if the brother is dependent on him, they will come under family. Import of service by a person in India from his brother wholly dependent in France. Yes. Import of service by a person in India from his daughter. Daughter whether or not dependent. Yes. So 1, 3 and 4. 1, 3 and 4 option A is the answer. Then which of the following activities? See, these MCQs are ICI MCQ booklet, and these MCQs were even asked in recent MTPs also. Okay. So be careful with respect to this. Please revise it once and go. Which of the following activities shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor as supply of services? Permanent transfer of business asset where ITC has been availed on such assets. Permanent transfer of business asset on which ITC availed? Yes. Temporary transfer of IPR. So neither as supply of goods nor as supply of service. No. So it is not excluded from supply. Transportation of disease excluded from supply. Service by employee to employer in the course of employment excluded from supply. So 1, 2 and 4. Okay. So permanent transfer of business asset where ITC has been availed on such asset is covered under supply. Actually, the question is what are excluded from supply? Only these two. 3 and 4 are only excluded from supply. Okay. 3 and 4 are only excluded from supplier. Next. Which of the following activities supply of service? Transfer of right in goods without transfer of title? Yes. Transfer of title? No. Transfer of title at a future date? No. So only one. Then P Limited has its registered office under Companies Act in the state of Maharashtra, from where it originally carries on its business of taxable goods. It also has a warehouse in the state of Telangana for storing the said goods. What will be the place of business of P Limited under GST law? So, Telangana, Maharashtra, both A and B. So, because when they have place of business in two states, they need to get registered in all the states mandatorily. Which of the following statement is true under GST law? Grandparents are never considered as related to their grandchildren. No, they are treated as related. For a person, their grandparents are treated as related. Grandparents are always considered as related to their grandchildren. Yes, that is a correct statement. Grandparents are considered as related to their grandchildren only if they are wholly dependent. Sorry, that is the correct statement. Only if they are wholly dependent on their grandson or granddaughter. Grandparents are considered as related to their grandson only if they are not dependent. No, only if they are dependent. Okay. So, which of the following statement is true under GST law? Grandparents actually for grandchildren, grandparents are not considered as related is a wrong answer here. This is a wrong answer. So, option C is the answer. Because from grandchildren perspective, when you see, grandparents are always related. From grandparents perspective, when you see, grandchildren are not related. So therefore here the answer is C here. Answer is C, not A. Not A, the answer is C. Okay. Then 8th, which of the following is not considered as goods under the CGST Act? Not goods. 10 paisa coin having sale value of 100, goods. Old coins, goods. Sale of unlisted shares of unlisted company, not goods. Securities, not goods. Lottery tickets is actionable claims, goods. So only 2. Only 2. So, but why lottery tickets? Why lottery tickets? Okay. So here actually the answer should be B. So which of the following is not considered as goods? So lottery tickets is considered as goods. Why lottery tickets is considered as goods? Actionable claims. Actionable claims are considered as goods. Only 2. B is the answer. So it is not C, it is B. It is B which is the answer. Then assuming that all the activities given below are undertaken for a consideration, state which of the following is not supply of service. Renting of commercial office complex service, employee agreeing to not work for the competitor service, repairing service, provision of service by employee to employer. It is excluded from supply. When it is excluded from supply, how it will become service? Neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Okay. Then question number 1, state whether the following supplies would be treated as supply of goods or supply of service. Renting of immobile property, supply of service. Transfer of right without transfer of title, service. Works contract deemed to be service. Temporary transfer or permitting or use or enjoyment of intellectual property right, temporary transfer, service. Sale of personal car to a dealer. Sale of personal car to a dealer, not a supply. Why? So, first of all, in this case, sale of personal car to a dealer, so it is not in the course or furtherance of business. That's why it is not a supply. Okay. Explain the service provided by way of tolerating non-performance of a contract and chargeability under the provisions of GST. See, consideration for not doing an act or tolerating an act. Non-performance of a contract comes under tolerating an act and that will become supply. Okay. So that is this. And we have an exemption when it is, okay, provided by government. So government is collecting consideration for tolerating an act that is exempted from GST. Then question number 3, Shahab Sales, an air conditioner dealer in Janakpuri, Delhi, needs 4 air conditioners for his newly constructed house in Safdarjung enclave. Therefore, he transfers 4 air conditioners on which IT is taken from his stock for the said purpose. Examine whether the said activity amounts to supply under section 7. Yes, it will become supply under section 7(1)(c), permanent transfer or disposal of business asset on which IT is available. Disposal need not be to a third person. So the owner himself takes it for personal purpose. Drawings, that will also come under supply. Further, a Janakpuri resident Akash approached Shahab Sales. He sold an air conditioner to Shahab Sales for rupees 5,000. Akash had brought the said air conditioner 6 months before for his residence. That sale of air conditioner by Akash to Shahab Sales amount to supply? No, because Akash is using that air conditioner for his personal purpose. So even though it is for consideration, it is not in the course or furtherance of business. Therefore, it is not a supply. Then question number 4, it is given in MTP number 18 for 4 marks. Raman is an architect in Chennai. His brother, who is settled in London, is a well-known lawyer. So brother is not related. Why? Settled. Raman has taken legal advice from him free of cost with regard to family dispute. So brother is not dependent. Therefore, it is not import of service from a related person, not a supply. Will your answer be different even if Raman has taken advice with respect to business? Even then the answer is same, because it is not a related party transaction. It is not an import of service from a related person. So these are the questions that we have in past exam on supply. So mostly theory questions and MCQs will be framed on this. Okay. So with this we completed, and I will be uploading case study MCQs. I'll be uploading case study MCQs. 16 case study MCQs are there. That discussion alone I will be uploading hereafter. And the remaining topics are exemptions and RCM. And thereafter we have time of supply, place of supply, time of supply and invoice, then registration. These 3 topics alone, you please see the videos of May 21. I will upload those videos. In the playlist, but that is for the previous batch which I took. So you can see that if possible, I will record it and upload. Otherwise, you can watch that. Okay. And my preference is to upload the case scenario MCQs. So that I will be uploading so that you can revise that. Okay. Thank you, and we will see in the next video.